thank you everybody for your generosity of time this morning, your deep commitment to your families, to your children. Let's just do a poll this morning. So I'm going to launch this poll, and I want to know how familiar you are with the Virtues Project. Are you curious? You're brand new to it. You're committed. You really want to learn more. You're confident, you've had lots of experience with the project, and now you want to go into creativity because you want to bring it to life. So go ahead and just vote. Give us about 1 minute as you discern. Exciting, we got some newbies, we got some committed folks. And hopefully by the end of our time together, you're going to have more confidence and be inspired for creativity. All right, we have about 3 more people who, waiting. I'm going to take a breath, invite you all to take a breath. And let it out. Because I imagine if you have children, even though you didn't leave your house, you used many virtues to get here this morning. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everybody. So we have some newbies and we have some people who really want to learn more. So thank you everybody for your openness doing that. All right, this is not a sit and get. So don't think that you're going to be able to like multitask. Well, you can do whatever you need to do for yourselves, but I'm really going to invite you to actively participate. And I am going to share a PowerPoint just for a minute. I'm going to go in and out because it's really more important for you all to see each other. But here we go. So, are you in the right place? Building stronger families, raising confident kids? If you are, thumbs up. If you're not, you might want to quit out and go outside because it's a beautiful day here on the East Coast. All right, so in your window, hopefully you all know how to change your name in your window. I want you to think of a virtue that is strong in your family. You have many strength virtues, and this is the short list, so it may not be on there, but rename your name in your window to be your first name and the virtue of your family. So I'm going to rename my window Dara, and I'm going to name it Justice because we are really passionate about justice. So go ahead and take a minute, and if you're not sure how to do that, if you click on the 3 little dots, you can move your cursor over your window. There's 3 little dots and you can drag down to rename, or you always have choices. You can click on the chat window and you can put your virtue in the chat box, and I'll see if I can multitask well, even though that's not a truth, and I'll help you out. So I see Sarah in empathy, and let's see who else is doing that. I see somebody, it's perseverance, don't see your first name. Caitlin's family is service. And yeah, so I imagine that you all will be adding to that. And sincerity for payment, Peter's family courage. Nishat's is honesty, and Ruhi is gratitude. Wonderful. Jonathan is saying generosity. All right, so we're starting to think from a strength-based perspective, and Marze is love. And so just notice how that feels to think about your family from a strength-based perspective, right? And looking through the lens of love. Thank you everybody for your cooperation doing that. So I want to honor you all for your love for your family and for your commitment to be here this morning. So many things that you could be doing, but really appreciate your generosity of time and service being here today. So we're going to start with some dopamine, because when we giggle, it helps us to lean into the learning. And so these are some fun little cartoons for families. So you're sitting at breakfast or dinner. I'll say dinner. So how was your day? Pretty standard, but it heads all day. How about you? Can you all relate? Not if you can, because some of us are living with our young children and also our adult children right now in quarantine. All right, here's the next one. Don't take that tone with me. All right. Now look very carefully and see what virtue you think this dad or mother is calling this youngster to. Oh no, no daughter of mine is going out dressed like that. Notice the buttons. So type in the chat box if you wish what virtue that parent really is wanting to instill in that child, but maybe saying it in a shaming way. Any guesses? There's really no right or wrong answer. I'm gonna go with, yeah, modesty, Sarah, you got it. Look at you all, you don't need this course. Go outside, it's a beautiful day. Watch the recording. All right, so good discernment. Look at this tangled web. What have you been up to? Now, what's the virtue that these spiders are using to create this web, and maybe it's a little bit tangled? Maybe these are new baby spiders. What do you think? Little, oh, could be cleanliness, maybe a little creativity, right? And not doing it in the way that they're supposed to do it. Orderliness, maybe the mommy spider is inviting the children spiders to be more orderly and inviting them to some patience and perseverance and excellence. You got it. All right, and we have a couple more. I don't care if he's a basketball, we're in love. I just thought that was cute. And then finally, don't worry, it's just a phase. You see that little moon down there? Well, you know what? Our children go through phases. We go through phases, right? And so what is the gift that is most priceless, that doesn't cost any money, that we can give our kids? And it is a lifelong, and maybe in the next world, if you believe in that gift. Type it in the box. Gift of love. I kind of thought you all would do that. Absolutely. And it's also the gifts of character, the virtues, those universal positive qualities of character that we are all born with. And we're all born with them in potential. So just some boundaries to help us get the most from our time together. This is not going to be me running my mouth the whole time. We're going to go into breakout rooms, going to open things up and have people share. So I just ask that when you are sharing the full group, please call on moderation. Keep your sharing brief. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat box or raise your hand to share. If you do it the old-fashioned way, I can only see 8 of you at the time. But if you click under the participant window where it says participants, there's a raise hand button. Then I'll make sure that I look and do my best to answer questions as we go or save them till the end. And then self-discipline. Oh yes, mute when we're not sharing. And then finally, trustworthiness and also trust. Trustworthiness to keep the confidentiality. You're going to be in breakout rooms, sharing from your hearts, I hope. And then trust that you're going to get exactly what you need. You know, we're on a path right now, a journey, and it's a lifelong journey. So don't feel like you need to just take notes and do everything that I share, because this is lifelong. All right, so I'm going to make you 3 promises. The first promise is you'll know how to speak a new language. You'll know how to speak it. Maybe you won't be so fluent on it, but I have some ideas of how to help you become more fluent and even open to creating a group where we can have some ongoing circles, virtue sharing circles, bringing together what's happening at home, the language that we use, and then to be able to code switch to virtues. I'm going to share with you 5 strategies for transforming the world, and finally, a little bit of magic. So, you got the first invitation. You're here. Here's the second invitation. I invite you to put your oxygen masks on first. For those of you who have children, or those of you who are compassionate, right now, we are just giving, giving, giving. So even though this is about building stronger families and raising confident kids, I invite you to be here for yourself, because these strategies I found have been very healing for myself, in addition to my family, for my students, and for everybody around the world. So I'd like to invite you to take 3 nice, deep breaths. In through your nose for the count of maybe 4. Hold maybe for the count of 5. And exhale with your mouth open for the count of 6, or whatever feels good for you. You just want your exhale to be longer than your inhale. And I want you to be thinking about your biggest hope for our time together. All right, so nice, deep, relaxing breaths. What's your biggest hope for our time together? And one more nice, deep breath. And let it out. And oh, by the way, don't stop breathing. Keep breathing throughout this whole time, okay? Okay, so in the chat box, I'd like you to type these 4 things, if you don't mind, okay? And if you number them, then we'll know what your answers are. We'll just take a minute. So where are you coming in from? What's your biggest hope for our time together? And how are you doing, really? Maybe just one word, and something that you're grateful for. Or actually, you know what? I'm gonna put you in breakout rooms. All right, so I want you to take a look, see what these questions are. Everybody see them? Where do you live? Your hope, how you are, and something that you're grateful for. And instead of typing it, it's really about connection. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna randomly put you into breakout rooms. So you might want to share your video when you get into the breakout rooms. We have 17 people. We're gonna do groups of 3. I'm gonna have you go into your breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. We're gonna go in and out of breakout rooms. And I'd like you just to introduce yourself, where you're from, how you are, what your hope is, and something that you're grateful for. Thumbs up if you got that. Everybody good? All right, I'll give you 6 minutes, and then feel free to talk about anything else that you want. And maybe you go in alphabetical order to decide who goes first. Where are you from? Your biggest hope, right? How you're doing, and something you're grateful for. All right, so when I click on the breakout room now, I'm gonna open them. I'll give you a minute warning when it's time to come back. So everybody click on join. And I'm gonna unmute you. Welcome back, friends. How you doing?
Good.
Good, you make some new friends?
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. All right, waiting, waiting. People have 18 more seconds. So welcome back. All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Where are you hiding your children? No, just kidding. Don't tell me, I don't need to know.
Hi, Gloria.
All right, so welcome back, everybody. All right, the whole family is back. We lost some friends. All right, so what I'd like to invite us to do right now is I'm going to mute everybody again just because it makes it easier for us to hear. Unmute yourself if you wish to share very briefly as very briefly what you all discussed in your room in terms of your biggest hopes. So what's your biggest hope for our time together? Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to share. Anybody? Or wave if you can't unmute. Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You know, ours was one kind of maybe focusing on a few virtues, but also to have them at top of mind, to be able to use the language and not having to scramble to remember, like, what am I looking at? What virtue is this? What, you know, just having it part of your regular conversation.
Yeah, thank you for your helpfulness sharing that. So nod, thumbs up, or do me too, if that would be helpful, right? Be able to have the top of mind, be able to see the virtues, and be able to acknowledge the virtues, and maybe even guide them back to a virtue, right? So thank you, common for so many of us. All right, who else wants to share? If there was a different hope that came up. Go ahead, Daniel. Can you unmute? Yeah.
Wait, can you hear me? Hi.
Hi.
My hope was actually for more focus on the confidence. You know, my son's at the age where the classes and the school, you know, they're very competitive, right? So it's very easy for his confidence to not be as high, to be a little lower. So I'm really hoping to get some strategies and what we can do to help boost his confidence.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your openness, sharing that. Nod or me too, if the same is true for you. So before I go on and ask anybody else to share, I want to give you the answers right now to some of these, and then we're going to build and practice throughout. I'm going to start with virtues top of mind. Virtues top of mind, we have to see them, right? So if you don't know where the list is, I'll put it, next time I put you all in breakout rooms, I'll put some resources in the chat box that you can download. And I'll also send you to my website. It's important for you to print out the list of virtues and to have multiple copies around the house, by your children's bed, on the refrigerator, at your desk, so that you can make virtues visible. It's important for you to do a virtues pick not you, us, to do a virtues pick every day. That's why we made the app. I found out about the Virtues Project in 2005, and I started using the project in my classroom, and there was total transformation. Joy, meaning, and purpose had returned. And then I would come home and yell at my children because they weren't being respectful, they weren't being cooperative, they weren't being a whole bunch of things. And then I remembered, oh my goodness, when Linda, the founder of the Virtues Project, was on Oprah, Oprah said of the Family Guide, it's the instruction manual that our kids didn't come with. Thumbs up if your kids came with instructions. Okay, good. I mean, not good, but I'm always afraid that my children are the only children that didn't come with instructions, right? So my kids were 12 and 15 when I found out about the project. They were teenagers, right? And I'll share a little bit about some of the protocols and processes that we used to create more unity, but also more confidence in my children. But my responsibility was to do a virtues pick every day. So I would pick the cards. How many of you all have virtues cards, the physical cards? All right, thank you. How many of you all have the app? And if you don't yet, if you go to virtuesmatter.com/app, I'm going to type it in the chat box, you can download it for free. Now, a really quick history about why I created the app. in 2009, I created the first generation of the app because I felt like these cards were flashcards. Like I needed to memorize every single virtue, what it meant, and then be able to use the language. Are you with me? Not flashcards, all right? It's a virtue at a time. And so I would do a virtue every day. And over the past 15 years, more than every day now, I needed to have them in my hand 24/7. So when I wanted to eat my children, I could just go, what virtue do I need? Ah, peacefulness. Okay, a reminder to take a breath. Am I making sense so far? Okay, and so I do a pick every single day. Dave and I do a pick every day. My kids do picks every day. And it's either an affirmation of a virtue that is strong in us or an invitation that we might want to be a little bit more purposeful. So one of the ways to become more fluent is to have a poster. The second way is to do a virtues pick every day. Another way is perhaps to do a virtue of the week with your family. You can use the virtues guide. That's how they have it structured. Or look at your family, let your children choose the virtues that they want to develop. And look at them over time. Read the card each day, each morning. So let's say you got the virtue today of initiative. How are you practicing initiative? Or who do you see practicing initiative? How could we practice initiative? And every day, just look a little bit more to reflect, right? And go back. Making sense so far? And then we're gonna write some scripts today. I'm gonna focus probably on the language, not go through all 5 strategies necessarily. And you're gonna walk away with 2 acknowledgements that you want to say to help your children strengthen those virtues and 1 guidance. And if you do that each month, you're going to have 24 new acknowledgements and 12 ways to guide your children from the lens of virtues. All right, so running in place, or just moving your body right now because you've already been sitting staring at this screen, and that's not going to help to develop your confidence or even help you stay awake. All right, so rubbing your hands together, going goody, 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 Dara. All right, what do you got next for us? Rubbing. And then see if you can feel the energy, the chi. Rubbing. And even if you can't, thank you for your cooperation, everybody. Here's what just happened. You just got energized a little bit, and you just got focused. And so whatever concerns you were thinking about prior, now I'm reminding you about those concerns, whatever might be stressing you out was no longer because you were focused. So Daniel, to your question, part of what's going to help our children to develop their confidence is, number 1, giving them some strategies to get fully present, mindfulness strategies, breath, energize, right? And to be able to, when we as adults speak the language of virtues to our children, and we have the evidence, then they start to realize that they have these virtues in them. I'm going to go all over the place right now in response to you all. Is that okay? All right. So let me give you an example. Pretend that I'm 5 and I'm learning to tie my shoes, and I'm doing it and the sweat is pouring down and you're encouraging me. I'm gonna unmute you all because I need some encouragement. Don't use any virtues. You can unmute yourself. I don't know why I'm muting, my all is not working. What do you say to encourage me? No virtues. I'm tying my shoes.
Come on, you can do it, you can do it.
You can do it.
You got it. You got this.
Thank you, mommies and daddies. I'm muting you all now. Okay, you're muted. Yeah, that's really loving and encouraging. But if my mindset is a fixed mindset and I don't believe in myself, that's not going to be helpful. So listen to this one. I see your determination, working to tie your shoes without giving up. Type in the chat box, what's the virtue? I see your determination, working to tie your shoes without giving up. Go ahead, type in the chat box. It's my pre-assessment. Yes, you got it, determination. Now, what's the evidence? I see your determination, working to tie your shoes. It could also be perseverance. I see your determination, working to tie your shoes without giving up. What's the evidence in that statement? So this could be a little tricky. Type it in the chat box. Yes, Daniel, you got it. Ruhi, you got it. Peter, you got it. It's without giving up, because the without giving upness is what determination is, right? What perseverance is. So I'm now a third grader, and you see me online working in this COVID, trying to understand and really get my homework done without giving up. And so you say, and you can mouth it with me, I see your, what virtue? Determination, working through your homework without giving up. You got it. So now I'm 16, you're my mommies and my daddies, and I'm learning how to parallel park in the minivan on a snow day. And I'm going up and over the curb, and thank goodness this strengthening our virtues is lifelong. And you're using all your virtues, and you say to me, I see your, what virtue? Determination, learning how to parallel park
without giving up.
Without giving up. You got it. All right. So now I'm 18. I'm driving away to college, and I am in my classes. I'm working. There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and you're not there to pat me on the back. It's hard being away for the first time, having a job, doing my studies, having my boyfriend break up with me for the 25th time, right? But what do I know I have in me?
Determination.
Determination. And what does that mean?
Don't give up.
I'm not going to give up. And so, Daniel, the more that we can acknowledge with the evidence those virtues of our children and our loved ones and the people that work with us, community members, etc., the more we're going to have the confidence to know that we have these virtues in us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, everybody? Carson! Mwah!
Bye.
Hello, I see your friendliness. Thank you for your patience waiting quietly for mommy to
Sorry, I
finish.
didn't realize I was not mute. I'll mute myself.
It's all good. It's all good. So, does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the more that we can see it in acknowledgement and give, and then also instead of shaming and blaming, because that destroys confidence. I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I'm going to miss seeing your beautiful faces, but we're going to go back to, we'll go back to red in a little bit. Okay. Regard man as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. The treasures are the virtues, right? And as noble beings, when we regard each one of us as noble beings, when we know that we're noble and everybody else in the world, treat people that way and use the language of virtues, not only is there confidence built in our children, but all the other virtues, and can help transform and unite the world. And given what's happening and what's been happening for over 400 years in this country, but without justice, there is no unity. So to have the confidence for our children to be able to stand for something right? And helping them to be of service early on is really, really powerful and important. Okay, I'll go back to my whys, going back. We'll do the follow leader dance party in a little bit. I want to go here for a second. All right, I want you to think of somebody who's stubborn. Can everybody think of somebody who's stubborn? Just one person, all right? And with me, I want you to repeat after me, "You're so stubborn," and notice how it feels in your body. All right? We're gonna do this on the count of 3. I'm gonna mute everyone. On the count of 3, "You're so stubborn." Here we go. 1, 2, 3. "You're so stubborn. You're so stubborn. You're so stubborn." Is there somebody who would be willing to share how this felt in your body? Go ahead and unmute if you can, or wave and I'll unmute you. Okay, Nash. And then Gina. Wait, Miss Shaw, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go. How'd it feel?
I just felt like my heart broke a little bit, and the vibrations were really loud.
Heartbreak and loud vibrations. Thank you for your confidence sharing that. Anybody else feel that way? Gina, how about you?
Frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated, annoyed, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for your openness sharing.
Thank
How
you.
many people felt annoyed and frustrated, right? My neck is tight right now. How are you all feeling? Doesn't feel good in our bodies. So now this is actually the second strategy of the Virtues Project, is about recognizing teachable moments. It's also about reframing and renaming. I want you to think of that same person, and the virtue of stubbornness is what? Determination.
Yeah.
Right? Think that same person. And this time, on the count of 3, saying it out loud, noticing how it feels in your body. "You're so determined." 3 times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. "You're so determined. You're so determined. You're so determined." All right. Is there someone else who would be willing to unmute themselves and share how it felt in your body? Anybody?
Wonder at how determined they are. Good.
So good, wonder and curiosity. Thank you for your help in sharing. Daniel, then Ruhi.
I felt like lighter when I was repeating the stubborn. It felt very like my body felt more tense, very heavy, and I can definitely feel, of course, the chemical reaction in the body. Kind of the as I was getting upset, mad. But when I was repeating determined, I felt much lighter, more at ease. It felt body felt more free.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your thoughtfulness sharing. Would you all agree? And Ruhi, how about for you?
For me, the word that came to mind was admiration. I felt that I was admiring the person for showing so much determination. That's what came to me.
Yeah, beautiful. How thoughtful, right? So instead of being annoyed, coming from a place of admiration. Now, there are times when determination can be really frustrating. And so I'm going to go back to a couple slides so you can see my children when I first found out about the Virtues Project. And so here we go. All right, so on the right side were my kids. They were 12 and 15. And as I share with you, I found out about the Virtues Project in 2005. I was teaching kindergarten. There's my kindergarten class, and one of my kindergartners with his mom. And joy, meaning, and purpose had returned to Mrs. Feldman's kindergarten class. And then I would go home and rage all over my kids. So I decided that since this was the instruction manual, that I would call a family meeting. How many of you all have ever had a family meeting with your children? Or when you were younger? They're really fun, aren't they? Not so much, yeah. So I sat my kids down at the table and my husband, and I said, do you want to read about setting family ground rules, or shall I? And what do you think they said? I'm just going to unmute you all because you have such good self-discipline. What do you think they said?
You read.
You read, that's right. You got it. So I read pages 31 to 33 on how to set family ground rules. And I was angry. I was really frustrated. So I took the physical virtues cards and I threw them across the dining room table. And I said, we're all going to pick a virtue that we're going to bring into our family. Okay? So we all picked a virtue. And my daughter picked respect. My son picked flexibility because he liked to manipulate things back then. My husband picked responsibility, and I picked orderliness. If you could see my desk right now, my table, you would understand why. And we read the card, and I'm sharing this with you because you can do this at 1 o'clock when we are done with our workshop together. All right? So we each read the card, and then we processed out what respect would look like in our family. This is the document from 2005 or 6. All right, so here's what respect looks like in our home. We will respect each other's privacy and space. We will knock and ask permission before entering a room. My husband likes to do the knock and push. Not very respectful, right? We will give each other our full attention when somebody is talking. Eye contact instead of iPhone, iPad. Are you with me so far? All right? And we will only say and do kind things. And then the consequences, and consequences don't mean punishment, but the consequences of us being respectful is there's more trust, there's more joy, there's less frustration, right? Those are the positive consequences. The educative consequences, if we don't give each other our full attention, then we have to put the devices away. If we're really angry and frustrated, we need to go someplace so that we can get calm and peaceful. Are you with me so far? All right. So then I gave each of my family members a piece of this lovely lime green paper. And I had each of us fold it into quarters so that we could put the virtues at the top and our name at the top. And I took the 4 pieces of paper, the 4 virtues cards, and I put them on our refrigerator. Remember, we want to make virtues visible. And then for the next 36 hours, I started looking for those virtues. Oh my goodness, Danny, thank you for your orderliness hanging up the towel. What was the virtue that she demonstrated?
Orderliness.
Orderliness. And what was the evidence?
Hanging up the towel.
She hung up the towel. My daughter is wildly creative. She was not born with orderliness as a strength virtue. We have strength and growth virtues, right? So she's really got to be mindful to work on her orderliness. So if I had just said, Danny, thank you for your orderliness, she would have been like, huh? Like, she didn't know what orderliness was, right? And if I had said, Danny, thank you for hanging up the towel, I would have missed the teachable moment that putting something back is the virtue of orderliness. You with me? All right. And then with Jake, thank you for your flexibility, eating dinner with us instead of playing with your friends. What was the virtue?
Flexibility.
Flexibility. And what did he do?
Sat at the dinner table.
Yeah, he had dinner with us instead of going out with his friends. All right, so you can, as a family, choose 4 virtues, 5 virtues. And what's this going to look like at your family? How are you going to practice it? And you want to acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge often, especially when it's somebody's growth virtue, meaning when it's not easy. So let's do an activity right now. I'm going to go skipping, 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 skipping. All right. So here is on the left side. Have you ever said any of the following things? Good job. Remember to hand in your homework. How many times have I told you to clean up your room? Thank you for dinner. Have you ever said any of those things? We all say that, right? And so I'm going to now show you what virtues language looks like. And then I want to give you an opportunity to reframe and rename a statement that you normally make that is a virtues acknowledgement. So instead of saying good job. All right, so here we go. Can everybody see that? So instead of saying good job, you could say you were so diligent practicing your piano. It sounded beautiful. Can you see how that would build confidence?
Yeah.
Right? And then diligence also, if practicing the piano makes it sound beautiful, well then when you're diligent, practicing something else or taking your time to do something else, it becomes a transferable skill. Would somebody be willing to read number 2? Hello? Please go ahead.
What will help you be responsible and hand in your homework on time?
Thank you for your helpful service reading that. So this is what we call, the first statement was a virtues acknowledgement. The second is a virtues guidance. And a virtues guidance is get ready. Hey, Ashkan, get ready to call on a virtue, or this is where you're gonna teach a virtue. So instead of saying, remember to do your homework or remember to hand in your homework, then you're assuming that they're not going to do it, right? Or you're nudge. Have you ever said that to your kids, right? Or to do something else? What's the look you usually get back? Or what do you usually hear? Don't say it, right? So when you could say, remember to please be responsible and handing your homework, right? Or I trust you will be responsible and hand in your homework as a guidance. But when we use the word what happens to our brain? Does anybody share? It starts working and problem solving, right? So type in the chat box, what are some things that might help your child be responsible and hand their homework in time, on time? And the reason I'm inviting you to the chat box is I want you to actively engage. You stay awake because we're gonna have to do the dance party soon. I can just tell. Right, so what will help you to be responsible and turn your homework in on time? Or somebody can just unmute and just share one phrase. Could you put a note or a reminder on your phone, or a sticky on the cookie jar because you go there 25 times a day, or right? So you're just going to give them some strategies. And for those of us who have attention deficit or hyperactivity or executive functioning, a lot of that comes from trauma or stress. Because when we are stressed or when we've experienced trauma and we get stuck in our emotions, are you all familiar with emotion? I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Are you familiar with emotional amygdala hijack? Thumbs up if you're, okay, so I'm gonna share this with you. Because even though that I teach this, even though I've done mindfulness for a long time, even though my mom was a shrink, didn't get it until I've done a deep dive, welcome, a deep dive into being trauma responsive. So everybody give me 5. This is your amygdala. What is it? Your amygdala. No, not really, it's your thumb, but just kidding. All right, so your amygdala is the part of your brain where you process your emotions, right? It's also there to keep you safe. Now, when you put your 4 fingers above, not really touching, it's this part of your brain. Anybody know what this part is? Yeah, it's your prefrontal cortex. It's where you do your rational thinking, your decision making. It's your executive functioning. And it's also where you are able to tap into your self-discipline or self-control. And so when whoever created us put us together, they put the amygdala there to keep us safe. Because when the saber-toothed tigers were coming after us, we didn't have to go and call on discernment. Should I flight? Should I fight? Or should I freeze? Right? Fight, flight, or freeze, or faint. Okay? Our body just does that to keep us safe. You with me? Not if you are. All right? But what has happened as we have evolved, this amygdala still does the same thing. And so it doesn't know if a threat is real or Memorex, for you old people who know what I'm talking about. Doesn't know if that threat is really happening now or if it's a memory in our subconscious that triggers us. Okay? So imagine that we are in one of the cities right now where there are uprisings and we're hearing either gunshots or explosives or things that are happening, right, in that loud sound. And then all of a sudden something falls on the ground. Do you think you would be startled? Absolutely, right? And especially if you've had that experience. So when we have experienced trauma on an ongoing basis, okay, and that's a whole other workshop, but our cortisol is going through our bodies and we're on alerts all the time. And when we're on alert all the time, it literally prevents us from being able to access our prefrontal cortex in a way because we react instead of responding. We're always waiting for the next shoe to drop or to keep us safe. So what happens is, everybody go like this again. When we get really scared or we get overwhelmed or even really excited, we go bing and we flip our lids. When your kid is running in the middle of the street, do you say, "Oh, sweetie, you might want to call on patience and wait for the car to pass"? Or do you say, "What the bleep were you thinking?" You grab them and you start yelling at them, right? Because you're literally scared to death, right? That's amygdala hijack, all right? And when we say things and our kids say things and you're like, "What are you thinking?" From that place of overwhelm or upset or excitement, we weren't, because we weren't able to access our right mind. So part of this is about us getting peaceful and having strategies for these virtues. Does that make sense? Okay. No, I'm in a happy amygdala hijack. I have no idea why we started talking about this, but it's all tied together. Any questions or comments so far? Raise your hand. Okay. Oh, I know. Ah, yeah. It was, let me share the screen again. It was about us giving strategies. Okay, so what will help you to be responsible? The next one, I know you have said this. I know you have, so be honest. Or you've heard it. You ask your children to clean up their room, or your parents have asked you to clean up your room, and your definition and their definition is never the what? Never the same. So we walk in and say, how many times have I told you to clean up this mess? Right? My mom was going to call the authorities on me because I was a little creative and not so orderly. So instead of shaming them because their definition and your definition are not the same, we want to be specific. Please be orderly, put your clothes in the hamper and close the closet door. We're inviting them with the success criteria right there. A guidance and a correction could sound exactly the same, but a guidance is before a mistaken behavior, and then a correction is after. And then the last one, drum roll please, everyone. Thank you for your enthusiastic participation and cooperation, just keeping you awake, is a virtues thank, a way to thank somebody. So let's say that somebody takes you out to dinner. Please God, soon one day we'll be able to go out to dinner again, right, with our friends and family, and they pick up the check. And what do you normally say? Thank you, right? Well, what if you were to say, thank you for your generosity buying us dinner? Ah, you're showing your gratitude, but you're tapping into their generosity. But that's for the outside world. This last example, thank you for your thoughtfulness making dinner for all of us, right? So your kids decided that they were going to be thoughtful and make dinner for you. Has it ever happened? Or breakfast? Mother's Day, Father's Day, right?
Yeah.
And then you go to the kitchen, and what's left for you to clean up? Right? See? All right. So instead of doing the I love you, but, you can use something called an act with tact positivity sandwich. Act with tact. So it's an acknowledge, correct, and thank. Please don't overuse this. All right? Because then every time you give an acknowledgement, people are going to be like, okay, what did I do? Right? So you can say to them, oh, I'm so appreciate your thoughtfulness making dinner for us. Would appreciate your helpfulness cleaning the kitchen. Thank you for your cooperation. Doesn't that feel a little bit better than all this mess? Right? Thumbs up, yay? All right, so now we're going to apply this to your lives. And I'm going to stop sharing. And we have some, okay. So think of something that your children do that you want to acknowledge them for and that you normally say. So maybe good job, or that was great, appreciate your help. Go ahead and type it in the chat box or write it down because this is for you. What do you normally say that's an acknowledgement, showing your appreciation, or you want to honor them for something? Don't worry about virtues. We'll do that next. And the nice thing about doing this together is people you're going to be able to say, you're going to be able to see we're pretty all similar, right? So thank you, I appreciate it, nice work, good job, bless your kindness, thank you. Yeah, great. That doesn't let us know or let your children or the people who you work with or serve with or your community know what was good, right? And so if your self-esteem is not so positive, right? And if, oh, you don't believe in yourself, just saying those things can create cognitive dissonance. It can make things worse, actually make you feel worse. So Now think about what it was that was good or awesome or that they did. Don't worry about the virtue. Just type in the chat box what the evidence is. What did they do? Maybe they cleaned up. Maybe they said a prayer in front of the community for the first time. All right, so they cleaned up. They said a prayer. What else? Folding laundry. They did their workbook correctly. Absolutely. Looking for a job. So many things. So this is how you build the language. You start with the evidence that you see or that you want to see. And then you identify the virtue that is needed in their development to have that or is being shown. So let's go up to the first one. So if somebody cleaned up, and I'm gonna say put their dishes in the dishwasher, specific. What virtue did they show, everybody? Yeah, orderliness or cleanliness. Let me unmute you. It's so lonely over here.
Responsibility.
Could have been responsibility, absolutely, right? So I see your responsibility, putting the dishes away, or your orderliness, putting the dishes away, or your trustworthiness, putting the dishes away if you ask them and they did it, right? What's the virtue that you want to reinforce so that they know that they have it? All right, the next one, let me see, there was another, you did the workbook correctly. What virtue does it take to do a workbook correctly?
Diligence.
Could take diligence, absolutely. So diligence, you're being very careful. Oh, I see your diligence being really careful, and therefore you did your workbook correctly. What other virtue could it be?
Excellence.
Could be excellence. I see your commitment to excellence, taking the time to do your workbook. Could also be patience. Yeah, that's where I was going, right? Some of us want to just get it done. Here, done. And instead of going, this is terrible, do it again. Now, instead of the acknowledgement, you just change the opening phrase and you invite them. What will help you to be patient? Take your time and do your workbook correctly. What will help you to be diligent? Take your time. What will help you to work with excellence? Making sense? Okay, and it might be, well, I need your help. Okay, or I don't understand it, etc. Folding laundry, looking for a job. I think you get it, right?
Yeah.
But here's the tricky part in the fluency is we've got to understand what these virtues are and the evidence so that it can come off of our tongues easily. And this is not just language that we speak to ourselves. All right, so we're going to practice in a fun way-ish. And those of you who don't have your virtues on, those of you who don't have your videos on, you might want to turn it on now or not. You can be a lurker. We're going to do the follow the leader dance party. And the reason that we're going to do this is because you've been staring at a screen too long, and there is actually a reason. There's a method to my madness. All right, now, in a minute, I'm going to put on some music, and I'm going to do something, and you're going to do what I'm doing. If you don't want it, that's okay. And I'm going to call different people, and we're going to look at their screens, and you're going to do what they're doing. This is usually when people want to go get coffee or go to the restroom. This happens in live workshops as well, right? If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Look very carefully and practice with me. This means pass. Like, I'm not doing it, right? So you can pass. And then we'll process this out, and we will, after this, take a quick break before we come back and finish, all right? So are there any questions? Here, why don't you do a little bit of opening up your chest, a little bit of moving your body around, taking nice deep breaths to get your confidence going. And please forgive me in advance in case I don't say your names correctly. Feel free to correct me. Remember, what's your pass move? What are you gonna do? All right, so here we go. I'll go with my staple. All right, can you hear?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, stop. Why don't you start? Do what she's doing.
I love
All
this
right,
song.
Gloria, you're on deck. All right, do what Gloria's doing. All right, Daniel, you're next. All right, Gina, how about you? All right, because Shelly, you're up. All right, over to Ruby. You're the leader. What are you going to do? There you go. All right, Peter. All right, I hope I'm going to pronounce your name right. Marva? All right, Payman, you're up. Sunday, you're next. All right, Sarah, coming to you. All right, let's see. Anybody else? All right, let's just start. All right. What on earth did that have to do with virtues? What virtues? Type in the chat box the virtues that you all just demonstrated in order to be able to do the follow the leader dance party. And what I'll do is I will bring back our list of virtues. All right. So what virtues did you all just call on in order to be able to do that? Type it up. And if you can, add the evidence. All right, so Payman followed along, so I'm going to say that you cooperated, right? Confidence, absolutely, to dance in front of a group. Joyfulness, people are smiling. And then courage, to dance in front of people I don't dance around. Absolutely. See, you're already speaking the language of virtues. Unity and respect, honoring the pattern of joyful dancing by everyone. Creativity, thinking of a move, and you all did different moves. That's the language of virtues, right? And so the reason that I like to do this in order to get you moving is the more mindful we are of the virtues, the more easily we can call on them. And so Payman, I see that you have a hand up. Did you have a question or a comment?
Sorry, my mistake.
No, it's all good. So even if you chose to pass, you called on virtues. In addition to wisdom, just kidding, perhaps you called on modesty. Maybe you're the best dancer in the group and you didn't want to embarrass us, right? Or it may have been assertiveness. That's not good for me. Every moment is a virtues moment. Making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you like a 5-minute break? Or do you want to keep
nice.
rolling? Okay, so here's what's going to happen. For those of you who want to take a break, take a break. For those of you who don't, I'm going to play the Oprah clip from when Linda was on Oprah. All right, and so at it's about 12:14-ish. At 12:20, please be back ready to rock and roll. And if you haven't downloaded the app yet, I invite you to download the app on the break. virtuesmatter.com/app or get your virtues cards because we're going to go into breakout rooms. Got it?
Got it.
All right. Enjoy your break. Thank you, everybody, for your enthusiastic participation. All right. Muting you all, sharing my screen, and finding Oprah. Do, 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 do. Okay, here she is.
We've been talking to people who stood up because of their sense of fairness and goodness and did the right thing. This is Linda Kaplan-Popoff, who has written a book called The Family Virtues Guide, which gives parents lots of ways to instill values in your children. Parents are always saying, you know, children don't come with a guidebook. This is one. And this helps you to get them on the right track for leading a good life, because oftentimes we don't know how to do that.
You bet. We feel pretty helpless with our kids sometimes, but what we need to know is that they come with innate virtues born within them. And our job as the first educator is to bring out the best in them.
Linda says that she has 5 strategies to help you as parents, hardest job on earth, teach your kids about virtues. First of all, finding teachable moments. What does that mean?
Well, all day long there are moments that are where a child could be practicing a virtue. And instead of shaming them and saying, don't be naughty, you know, why are you so stupid, all the things, the shaming words that we used to hear as labels, what we can do is to take what happens and turn it into a virtues moment. For example, if kids are fighting, we don't have to go in there and fight with them and say, why are you guys so mean to each other? Why can't you ever get along? Instead, we can call them to the virtue of peacefulness and say, there's a peaceful way for you to solve that. Let me see you act peacefully now. Or if a child is getting antsy about dinner, you can say, it's taking a lot of patience to wait for dinner, isn't it? You use that language of virtues, and it's a teachable moment that brings out the best that's already inside of them.
Set boundaries.
Setting clear boundaries is very important. Children crave authority. But if there is not enough authority in a family, the child will become the authority. So we need to have, everybody needs to have.
Ain't that the living truth?
Yeah. Every family needs to have 4 or 5 clear ground rules that are based on virtues. For example,
I think today's parents are more afraid of setting boundaries because they're afraid their kids aren't going to like them.
Exactly. They want to be
kids like you no matter what. They really do.
They do. I think it's because they felt so oppressed by too many rules in their families, so they're into what I call opposititis. They have gone to the opposite extreme and become a pal to their kids. But children need 4 or 5 ground rules in the family where it prevents power struggles. Like, for example, we only eat in the family room and the kitchen. We all help cleaning the chores, cleaning the house. This family is a peace zone. We treat each other, we talk with respect, we act with respect. And then there need to be consequences, very clear consequences. For example, one of our family ground rules was, you are home at 6 o'clock no matter what. And if they were home at 6:01 or 6:05, they would have had the consequence. So my boys were out playing, and they're about 7 and 9, and they got kind of lost. And they opened the door at 6 o'clock. They fell on the floor. They were covered with brambles, and they said, did we make it? Did we make it? And they were like terrified. Now, what was the terrible consequence? It was the next day, you stay in the house.
Whoa. But
what was terrible for them was they didn't want to lose their record, because a ground rule is non-negotiable. And they cherished that rule. They had never broken it before.
Ground rules, for example, if you say, we are a peace zone, this family.
Yes.
That's non-negotiable. We respect each other. We treat each other with a sense of peace in this house, period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if kids get angry. Anger is a natural emotion. But we can learn to use peaceful language. When we're angry, we can say, I'm furious.
By using the language of virtues?
No, by just telling our feelings. And saying, yes, actually they do. They say, I expect you to treat my things with respect. You came in and you stepped on my model. Now, what are you going to do to make up to me for that? That's part of it, is establishing justice in the family.
Is that using the language of virtues?
Yes, it is.
Okay, back in a moment. We've been talking to people who stood up and did the right thing. Okay, honoring the spirit.
Honoring the spirit is a real important thing in these days, Oprah, because So many of us are just out of our minds. We're just not connected. And so
Anybody feel like that?
everything's go, 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 and you feel like you just don't have enough time.
It's the key. I think that should be number one, it's hard to do it with kids, I think.
Well, kids are
Because you are spirit, come from spirit, and if you
Sure.
honor that first, everything else falls into
You
place.
bet. Well,
That's why I'm the happiest girl in the USA. Anyway, honoring the spirit.
It's because of your sense of reverence. And we say every family can have a routine of reverence. Come together in a sacred circle. Come together and have a time of quiet meditation. Whether you're religious or not, you need routines of reflection. Our kids are too often technical wizards and moral incompetence.
Yeah.
And they've got to have quiet time. They need time for the beauty of nature. They need time that is non-compulsory time with their parents.
Yeah.
And we all need that sacred moment, that sacred time every day.
Yes, because ask yourself this, parents, those of you who, are of my generation or you're younger, you can also ask yourself this too. We have more technology, we have more stuff, your kids have more things than you ever could have imagined,
Yes.
but are they really better off?
They're not very happy. What America needs to understand, Oprah, is that these kids that are killing each other, that are killing themselves, killing their parents, they have lost a sense of meaning. When they're interviewed and people say, why did you do it? They say, I was bored. Drive-by shootings for someone that they never even knew. What is boredom but the disease of meaninglessness? And so we say in the Family Virtues Guide, you've got to give children a sense of meaning. Help them remember that they are people of honor. They are people of justice. They have generosity in them. And if they do something generous, don't just say, that's nice. Say, that was generous.
Because I think parents, which I honor that it is the hardest job on earth.
Oh, yeah.
But that a lot of parents have lost their way in trying to raise kids who have a lot of things instead of raising kids who have something to give to the world.
Exactly. And that's something they have to give to the world is themselves, their best self. And there's a huge crisis of self-esteem, especially with these kids that perpetrate violence. They are longing to belong, and they are looking for a source of meaning.
Yeah, they're disconnected.
They are disconnected, exactly, from their own spirit. So we need some spiritual practices that we do every day or every week. And we have examples in there about having a family gathering where you choose a virtual week, and you go into what is idealism. These kids are at an age, typically in their early to mid-teens, where they are craving idealism. It's their natural virtue to cultivate. Then they want to make their mark on the world. They want to have a big dream and make it possible. And that is the time for you to honor that and to tell them the stories of your family. That's another way to honor the spirit. Tell them your family stories about when Uncle Benny did a really brave thing and rescued someone. That's what these kids just love to hear.
Again, thank you for the Family Virtues Guide. Coming up.
So, welcome back, my friends. Hope you had a really great little break. Just reminding you all that the reason that you can laugh at me, because whether you laugh at me or you laugh with me, you're still getting a hit of dopamine, so I'm good either way, is that we are here to strengthen our family unity and to build the confidence in our kids and our inner child. And when we know that we have all of these virtues in us in potential, then we know that we have our superhero qualities. All right. So, there you are. Thank you, friends who are here, for your reliability and trustworthiness coming back on time. Not trying to shame the rest of you. All right, welcome back, welcome back. How you doing? Questions or comments?
Yes, where do I get the cards from?
So if you go to the App Store, the iTunes or Google Play, they're called Virtues Cards.
Okay, on that website you gave us, right?
You could do it, or just go to, if you have an iPhone, go to the App Store, iTunes
I don't have
Store.
an iPhone.
You have a Google, Android?
Yes.
So the Play Store.
Yes.
And it's called Virtues Cards, and it's a free download.
Just Virtues Cards?
Virtues Cards, that's the name. And so Yeah, thank you for your thoughtfulness asking. Okay, so any other questions before we move on? Okay, wondering where the rest of our friends went. So I think, oh, wants to dance again. Okay, so I'll do a couple of announcements maybe because I'd like to have the rest of our friends together so we can go into rooms and do a virtues pick. If you are interested in really deepening your practice, if you're interested in knowing more about the Virtues Project, it's a 2-day full intro, and then there's also a 3-day facilitator training. In addition, I'll offer some virtues coaching. So, you know, it's one thing to be able to participate in a workshop, but then there's another way to either have a one-on-one or a small group where we can uplift what's happening and identify the virtues, practice the statements, and give people space to be heard. So feel free to reach out to me. I'll give you my contact information at the end. Okay, it looks like there's some more friends who came back. All right, hope you had a good break. Let me share a couple more things with you before we go into our breakout rooms. So that was a little bit of Oprah. We were talking about recognizing teachable moments. And instead of the shaming and blaming, instead of saying you're stubborn or you're changing it from stubbornness to determination, we're renaming things to virtues. But look on this list under conscious destroyers. What do you notice that might be a little bit surprising to you, that may help our children, it may impact our children being able to develop their confidence? Let's see. Yes, I'll say, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, thank you for holding me accountable. I will send you the list of virtue. Yes, Sarah, overprotecting, and it also, Ruhi, ignoring effort. And one more, that lack of clear boundaries, right? So my mother, she was a wonderful woman, and she had the disease of alcoholism. I'm mindful not to call her an alcoholic because when we label people, even if it's positive, even if it's a virtue, that's not good. Oh, you're my responsible child. You're my creative child. We don't want to do that. Again, that could create cognitive dissonance. And we certainly don't want to do any of the shaming labels. So I didn't grow up really knowing how to set clear and healthy boundaries. And it wasn't until my kids were 12 and 15 that I learned how to do that. And so creating safe boundaries, virtues-based boundaries, teaching what those look like, honoring our children when they are living within those boundaries, and then having natural consequences or educative consequences, meaning helping them learn from their mistakes. Even employing restorative justice so that when there's a mistaken behavior, finding out what was underneath, what happened from the children's understanding or misunderstanding, inviting them to call on a virtue moving forward that they may have been missing. So for example, maybe they were outside and you know that your curfew is 6 o'clock and they need to be home and inside by 6 o'clock. Well, they were outside, you know, just playing, having fun, etc. And they came in at 7. Meanwhile, you're scared, you know, you're worried. And so they don't realize the impact. If we just say, you missed your curfew, go to your room, they don't understand that you were afraid, that their behavior created fear in you. Are you with me so far? Right? So when you can say, you know what, I was really afraid. I didn't know what happened. Somebody took you, you were lost, you were hurt. I was really scared. So what virtue could you have called on so that in the future, this doesn't happen? Maybe it's mindfulness, right? They set their phone to come back on time, or responsibility or trustworthiness. And you teach them how to do it differently. But guess what? You're still scared, right? So they need to somehow make amends, make things right, so that they come back fully into your family community. And they also realize that they made a mistake, not that they are a mistake. All right? And so, yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, sacrifice, right? And so I wrote a book called The Heart of Education, Bringing Joy, Meaning, and Purpose Back to Teaching and Learning. It's all about the Virtues Project, 5 strategies. And I'll put in the chat box where you can actually download it for free, the PDF and the audio. And so that might be a resource that can help you, because I realize I'm just introducing you to some of the strategies. You're welcome. I appreciate your gratitude. Right? I'm just introducing you to some of the strategies, but it really does take some practice. So the family guide is really helpful as well. All right. And now, what I'm like to invite you to do is we're going to go into our breakout rooms. And we're going to do a virtues pick. Thumbs up if you've never done a virtues pick before. Thumbs up if that's new to you. Okay, so I see a couple of people. So what's going to happen is you're going to be in a room with, I think, 3 people. So maybe one person will shake their phone or do the card. And what will happen is whoever chooses to do that, they'll read the card out loud and then share whatever comes to their mind and heart. And the 2 people listening will offer a virtues acknowledgement. Or if you're not comfortable with the language, you can just say, thank you for sharing, or I hear your gratitude, or I hear your love for your children. Whatever it is, right? And then the person will just say, thank you. It's not a conversation. Then the next person will say, oh, the virtue of serenity. Oh man, I wish I could find my serenity. My kids are just, I can't find any space. And I'm just really longing for serenity. And then the 2 people listening, even if they're going, me too, me too, me too, not gonna say me too. You're gonna offer an acknowledgement. You know, I appreciate your honesty sharing, or I see your service and your sacrifice for your serenity, for caring for your family. And then the last person will go. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. Well, actually, I'll give you all 8 minutes. If you finish early and you wanna start practicing the language or having another conversation about what's meaningful, do it, all right? But there's 8 minutes that you have. Are there any questions? And yes, Ruhi.
I just wanted to make sure, so when we pick, let's say I picked kindness, I will read the card first, and then I would give an example of kindness in my life, or like that part that you said, we're going to talk about it, and then people will give acknowledgement. So how does it go?
So it's anything that comes to your mind or heart. You could give an example, or you just whatever it makes you think or feel, right? Maybe it's an example of how you've demonstrated kindness, how somebody's been kind to you, how you wish people would be more kind to each other. Whatever you want, there's no right or wrong answer. Okay? And if you have the app, then you have the list of virtues, and it makes it a little bit easier to give an acknowledgement, but you're not fluent in virtues language. So really what's most important is that you are there fully present for somebody giving the gift of your presence. And you can just say, thanks for sharing if that's all you can do. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, so gonna be 8 minutes. Let me do our breakout rooms again. And where did our breakout rooms go? Oh, let me stop sharing. There we go. All right, so breakout rooms, and we still have, it'll be with the same folks. And I'm gonna click on breakout rooms and bring you all back at 12:40. So be mindful to give each person at least like 90 seconds to share. And if you want to read your own card, that's fine. All right, so everybody move to your rooms, please. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. Oh, you're back. Sorry. So welcome back. Glad you're here. Glad you decided to stick around. All right. So what I'm going to invite us to do is share how that was for you. But before we do, round of applause for you all. Yay! You just did all 5 strategies of the Virtues Project. Good job, good job. Just kidding. I don't like that word, good job, or that phrase. All right. I actually did put in the chat box 2 handouts and a link. And the handout, to be honest, it's a little bit different than the title for our session, because after the handouts are in the chat box, because as a result of what we focused on, I thought it would be better just to have the language handout than overwhelm you with a 28-page handout of all the other strategies. So there's the family poster in the handouts, and then the Virtues Matter. You don't see it in the chat box?
No.
Right. You know what, probably because I'll send it to you again, probably because when you were out there, when you were in your room. So let me resend it. Thank you for your honesty. But you all just did all 5 strategies of the Virtues Project. And here they are. And so let me see if I can multitask. Tell me how that was for you. All right, so let's just, who wants to share how that was for you? And then while you're sharing, I'll debrief and show you how you just did all 5 strategies. All right, check the chat box. Do you see the handouts now? Woo, okay, that's the family handout. And then I have to find the other handout I'll send to you. All right, thank you for your patience. I'll multitask. So who wants to share? What was it like doing a Virtues pick with someone? Just unmute and share, please.
Well, I don't see the handout yet in the chat, but I'll just share. Oh, there, I see a link now.
There's a link and there's 2 handouts.
I thought it was a good session. We read the cards and we're just honest with each other about how we relate to it.
So Peter, I appreciate your openness sharing that. How many people felt like you were being able to connect heart to heart, that there was some honesty going back and forth, right? So that was the 4th strategy. It's about honoring the spirit. And honoring the spirit is meaning and purpose. It could be nature, it could be service, it could be art, it could be your bedtime ritual, it could be prayer, meditation, whatever that honors your own spirit and a deep connection with someone else. What else was helpful or meaningful about taking the time to do a Virtues pick? Nishat?
Hi. So first, I just found it, I guess, almost like a relief that someone else who is as committed to this as I am has just as hard of a time at trying to, you know, that we are still trying. It still felt, so the connection was there, but we just, in terms of putting it in words, it was awkward to figure out what sentence structure to use.
Yeah.
So that I think it was nice to see that I'm not the only one.
Not alone. Yeah, so thank you for your honesty sharing that. How many else of you felt like it's awkward? You need to practice, right? It's a practice. So you were able to recognize a teachable moment. That's the second strategy. Hopefully not shaming and blaming, but just an awareness that perhaps some patience and perseverance and mindfulness around this would help you to strengthen your ability to speak the language. Okay, so teachable moment is when there's a mistaken behavior and oops, it's like, don't beat yourself up. It's perhaps I need to develop this virtue. And I still see that some people are not able to find the handouts. You can email me and I'll email them back to you. I'll give you my contact. Okay, so thank you for your honesty and patience. All right, how many of you all, how was it to be listened to without being interrupted? Were you able to like hear yourself? A little bit, right? So the fifth strategy is the companioning process. It's a 7-step counseling technique to lead somebody to their own solution. And so when your child's really excited or really upset, even if you know what it is, the first thing that you do is you start by putting on your virtues of compassion and detachment. Compassion so that you can be with them, and detachment so you don't take on their stuff. And then you open the door, close your mouth, and you say, what's happening? You get curious, not furious. What's happening? And then you listen with receptive silence, even if you know. And this, And then you might ask some cup emptying questions, like reflective listening. What are you the most upset about? What are you the most frustrated about? What are you the most scared about? You know, with this COVID thing. And then if you see them welling up with tears, to get to the heart of the matter, you're not going to say, why are you crying? One, they may not know why, but when you ask why, it throws people into their head, right? And maybe puts them on the defensive. So you notice the sensory cues and say, what are those tears for? Or tell me about this look, or tell me about what's happening in your tummy. Notice the sensory cues. And then the next one is you're going to look for the virtue. A virtues reflection question. What will help you to be peaceful? Or what virtue will help you if they know the virtues? And then a closure and integration question is really holding a mirror up to them. What's clearer to you now? Or what was helpful? When you say what's clearer to you now, they get to realize that they've come up with their own solution. And finally, when you're fluent, you end with a virtues acknowledgement. You know what, sweetie? I appreciate your honesty, sharing how you're feeling right now, and your patience, you know, just staying inside and playing so that you're safe. And if those are too many strategies or steps for you to remember, you open the door with what's happening, and then you end with a virtues acknowledgement. That is better than giving any unsolicited advice. Have you ever gotten unsolicited advice? How'd it feel? Not too good, right? This will save your marriages and your relationship with your teenagers. Trust me. All right, so felt good to be listened to. And then what was it like? Was anybody able to receive a virtues acknowledgement? And wants to share how that felt? Anybody? Nobody? We have to practice the language a little bit more.
It felt relieving.
Oh, it felt relieving.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your openness sharing that, Peter.
Validating.
Validating, absolutely, right? Really thoughtful discernment. And so I'm gonna give you some acknowledgements right now. I really wanna honor you all for your steadfastness, sticking with me, and your determination to really understand how to become fluent with this language. Also, your commitment and love that you have for your children to build their confidence and self-esteem in authentic ways. Where do you feel that when I say that to you? I felt it in my heart because it was coming from my heart. I could just say, all right, everybody, thank you for your time. We're not done yet, 1 o'clock. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And that would be courteous, but that's not a virtues acknowledgement. And so, yeah, it just, we take it to our souls. And for those folks who have children and loved ones who are on the spectrum, right? This is a language of the heart. Or those of us who have people who maybe we have family members who've suffered a stroke and are not able to articulate, or their language delays, not able to articulate. This is energetic, soulful language. You just share it from your soul. Don't worry about getting it perfect. That's going to make all the difference in the world. Okay? And then finally, how many of you all didn't do the crosstalk thing? You were able to call on self-discipline and not have a conversation. If you were, then thank you for your trustworthiness, sticking to my boundaries. And if you weren't, I imagine it was a virtue that you had that strong in you that made you talk. Maybe you felt some compassion for somebody and you wanted to make it better. So your compassion got the best of you and you wanted to give a little love, right? Or maybe there was some enthusiasm that you're not alone. So you were like, yeah, me too, right? It came from a virtue. And so remember that setting clear boundaries based on restorative justice, meaning, sometimes we make mistakes. We just take responsibility and fix it. So those are the 5 strategies of the Virtues Project. Ooh, 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 ooh. Y'all just did it. Celebrate, celebrate. And we have 3 more activities to do before 1 o'clock and our time ends. I'm going to share a video with you about the importance of listening and what this can do. I know we focus a lot on talking, but listening. These are from some friends, Womb Work Productions in Baltimore. Mama Kay and Mama Rashida lead this organization. And then we'll do a water trick and 1-word whip around. And then I'll just stay on as long as you want and answer. Well, no, I won't. I have a meeting at 1. Well, I'll stay on until 1 and answer any questions. All right, so here we go. Going to share this with you. And, oops, my very messy desktop. We'll just have to get together again so you can see the other video. All right, here we go.
Really thank you for being here and supporting us. I really appreciate it. We are on a journey of self-discovery. We are learning a new language.
We are speaking the language of virtues.
We are learning the 5 strategies of the Virtues Project.
One of the most important aspects of our journey has been learning to listen. Listen. Just listen. When I ask you to listen and you start giving advice, you haven't done what I asked.
Listen. Just listen. When you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way, You're trampling on my feelings.
Yeah. Listen, when I ask you to do something for me, and you feel you have to do something to solve my problems, you'll fail me. Strange as that may seem.
Right.
Listen, all I ask is that you listen, not talk or do, just hear.
Right, yeah, that's right. Because I can get advice from Oprah's new network or her last season or from my friends on Facebook. I'm not helpless.
Maybe discouraged and faltering, but not helpless. When you do something for me that I can or need to do for myself, you have contributed to my fear and inadequacy.
But when you accept as a simple fact that I do feel, no matter how irrational,
Then I can quit trying to convince you and get about the business of understanding what's behind this irrational feeling. And when that's clear, the answers are quite obvious, and I don't need advice.
See, irrational feelings make sense when you understand what's behind them.
Please,
just listen and just hear me. And when you want to talk,
Then
wait your turn, and then I will listen to you.
All right. So, were you able to hear that? Yeah? Okay. So, here's the plan. This is how you're going to get into action. The plan is an acronym. P stands for Pick Daily. You do a Virtues Pick Daily by yourself, with your partner, or with your family. Then you're going to be looking for the good in yourself and others, looking for those virtues, right? What we focus on expands. Then acknowledge and appreciate often, and notice the teachable moments. I'm going to show you some other features of the app in just a minute. All right, so there's the plan. We already did Oprah. There's my contact information. It's dara@virtuesmatter.com, and my cell is 301-529-1302. I want to show you a magic trick and then open it up for any last questions that you might have. And I'll stay on a little bit longer if that's okay. We are all born with all the virtues in us, in potential. And then things happen. Maybe we have some learning disabilities. Maybe we experience some trauma. Maybe we've lost people that we love. Who we are gets clouded. Our sense of our nobility, right? And our confidence. However, when we remember to speak the language of virtues, we recognize teachable moments instead of shaming and blaming. We set clear boundaries based on restorative justice. We honor the spirit of ourselves and one another, and we listen with compassionate curiosity. No longer do we have those burdens of those limiting and false beliefs and those veils. We are even stronger, clearer in our confidence and in our inherent nobility. It has been a joy and an honor to be in circle with all of you. I wish you much joy, meaning purpose, and peace, always and in all ways. And with that, your homework is to practice the language of virtues every day, starting with yourself. And in the app, you can click on the arrow at the top and then share it in social media or text it to someone with an acknowledgement of the virtues that you see in them. You can also shake it for a random pick, double tap to flip, and when you flip it up, my hands are wet, so it's not going to cooperate. There is also a journal feature. So you can click on journal and save, and then finally reminders. to practice the language, to make it visible. The virtues prompts set them, and that's going to help you as well. So really would appreciate you all typing one word or one phrase in the chat box about how you're feeling about our time together. I welcome your honest feedback, and if anybody wants to unmute with any questions or comments, feel free to do so. It's so super grateful to be in circle with all of you.